Thank you for joining us. We're going to be talking a little bit today about K-12 deployments of Meraki, and then focus specifically on a case study with Columbus City Schools. So my name is Connor, and I will be doing the presenting here today. We have Michele Van Dyke from Columbus City Schools on the call as well, and we'll introduce her in a little bit. And then my colleague Tanya is on the call as well, and she'll be answering any questions. So as questions come up throughout the demonstration here and the presentation, feel free to shoot any questions into the Q&A box, and she'll be answering those as we go. All right, so just a quick overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to do a little bit of an introduction to what Meraki is. We're going to do a little bit of an overview in terms of the technology and architecture that we offer, talk about cloud-managed IT, and then we're going to focus on Columbus City Schools, do a slight product demonstration, and then open it up to some additional Q&A. All right, so a little bit about Cisco Meraki. So Cisco Meraki, what our goal is really to simplify the IT world and really free up passionate people to do things that they're really excited about, projects that they're excited about, and not necessarily be bogged down with day-to-day management of a network. We've been around since 2006 when we were founded by 3 MIT students, originally as a wireless company. Since then, we've grown out our technology platforms to include wireless, switching, and security appliances, as well as VoIP phones, cloud-managed security cameras, and an enterprise mobility management system for any of those mobile devices that you have in your schools. We were acquired by Cisco at the end of 2012, turned into 2013, and now we basically run as their cloud networking group. So we are a part of Cisco, but really our focus is cloud-managed networking hardware. Today, about 12 years later, we now have over 250,000 unique customers, over 3.5 million devices online, and we support over 1 million networks, so with over 5.5 million active users. So it's grown a lot from what it originally was as a wireless system between dorm rooms into a worldwide networking company now. So what types of benefits are offered by the cloud, and specifically so for K-12? One thing is security. For us, security is a very big factor, right? It's something that we take very seriously. So one thing for us is, and I like to highlight this specifically, is that no user traffic actually passes through the cloud. That's a common misconception. Our cloud infrastructure is really for the management and configuration of your network. So think of troubleshooting, making any adjustments to settings on devices, but traffic is all passed solely on the LAN. That's not passed through our cloud. We're fully HIPAA and PCI compliant. We've got third-party security updates, so that we're constantly trying to rework our security platform. We have a Q&A team that's trying to, or QA team, excuse me, that's trying to break it and fix it at all times. We provide automatic firmware and software updates as well. So being a cloud-managed platform, anytime we make an adjustment, whether it's because of our own needs or because of a known threat, something like WannaCry that happened this fall, those are updates and adjustments that we can make on the fly and push out via the cloud, and our customers then have the ability to basically have the protection without having to do any kind of software upload or make any adjustments. Another piece is that it's very scalable. We allow unlimited throughput. There's no bottlenecks. This can range anywhere from a small network. I have it set up in my apartment at home with just my wife and I, up to thousands of individuals connected worldwide. So it's very scalable. It's all managed from the same dashboard, which you'll see here in a little bit. And then the other piece is reliability. So we have multiple data centers around the world. The idea is that being in the cloud, if anything ever were to fail, it would just back up to another data center. And again, they're placed all around the world to help with that reliability. And we have a 4.9 uptime SLA. So 99.99% is our SLA. One thing I do want to highlight too is at the bottom here, this URL, meraki.cisco.com/trust. If you have any questions or want to learn a little bit more about security specifics and compliances that we have, feel free to check that out. It's a great section of our website with lots of good information. So why choose Cisco Meraki for K-12? One piece is it's a very intuitive product. Again, you see it from these pictures. If any of you have not seen it live, we will take a little look into what a live network looks like. We're going to take a peek at the Meraki network. But it's very intuitive. So there's no training necessary. It's very seamless to set up and get comfortable with. And it's a full stack solution. So we offer, as I mentioned, wireless switching, security appliances, and then we also offer security cameras, VoIP phones, and an EMM solution. So under one roof, under one dashboard, you have the ability to control your complete network. And the other thing is you then have 24/7 support that's offered from one team. It's no longer the way of, hey, I think I have a problem with my wireless. I end up finding out after talking to my wireless provider for a while that it's actually a switching problem and I have to call a new company. It's all the same team, the same stack, and the same dashboard. Another reason that it makes sense in K-12 environments and what our customers are getting excited about is the flexibility for distributed schools and campuses. So live tools, live troubleshooting allow you to sit in one location and access all of your networks. So if I have a campus at one end of town and another one in the north end of the state, I can be in the central campus and I can access the other campus, see what's going on, make adjustments to the network without having to drive up there. So it's saving you time. It also allows for zero-touch site provisioning. So if you need to expand anything on the network in the northern campus, you can send the products out there, you can configure them from the dashboard, and somebody can just install them as soon as they arrive, and as soon as they go online, everything's up and running. You don't actually have to necessarily make a trip out there to set all of that up. And then lastly, it's industry-leading visibility, control, and security. That's really one of the things that we do differently is offering a full stack that's managed from this dashboard, but within the dashboard, it really creates a lot of visibility that a lot of times you don't have. So think about being able to access all the different users, all the different devices that are on your network. You have the ability to really, from a network-wide perspective, monitor what's going on and set up alerts for any type of activity that you want to highlight. We're HIPAA-compliant content and security filtering. So again, in a K-12 environment, this provides the flexibility of students being able to access sites and information that's relevant to school and relevant to their age range, but also blocking things that they really shouldn't be accessing at school. So lots of flexibility. We'll dive into that a little bit when we actually take a look at the demo here in a little bit. And just to give you an idea, right now we are in thousands of different K-12 campuses across North America. We actually do have networks worldwide, so we are in K-12 campuses worldwide. These are just a few that we like to highlight. These are some of our earlier customers, but today we are going to focus on Columbus City Schools. So I would like to introduce Michele Van Dyke. And Michele, if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Columbus City Schools.
Hi, I'm Michele Van Dyke. I'm the Director of Technology for Columbus City Schools here in Columbus, Ohio. The screen pretty much tells the story, a little different though. We are the largest school district in the state of Ohio. It says 120 schools, and we do have probably 120 schools, but actually 109 buildings. We do have 130-some buildings across our district, and we are spread out very wide. We're 200 square miles. So we have 52,000 students on any given day and approximately 5,000 staff members using the network at a time. And part of something that we have here is that we really have one network manager and one engineer and then just a couple field technicians for our network team. So we have a very small network team to cover a very large area.
Awesome. Thank you, Michele. So the next question then is, I appreciate the kind of the overview, but then the next question is, do you mind just telling us a little bit about what your experience was? Why did you find the need to grow your network? What was really your impetus to start looking at Meraki and exploring other options out there?
So we have gone through the exercise of going district-wide wireless probably four times in the past maybe 10 years, and a group of students actually got together and went to our board members and did a presentation for our senior leadership as well, saying that they wanted to bring your own device in their high school. So that really brought it to light for our district that we needed to move in this direction. And followed by that, we also had state testing, and it's just a number of things that are online and available to students that we wanted to untether their experience so that they could move around and collaborate throughout the district.
Awesome, awesome. So that's actually impressive. I didn't realize that when we had talked before that you'd kind of gone to the drawing board 4 times. So what was it then about Meraki? What led you to that? Where did you find it, and then what ultimately was it that was kind of the, this makes the most sense. Let's do this.
Well, so we started in, I think, 3 or 4 schools, and we, obviously we're in a bid situation all the time because we're public funds. So the best thing for us to do is to do a proof of concept with it, or the best solution for us was to do a proof of concept with a number of vendors. Clearly, a lot of people came to the table. So we settled on 3 different vendors, Meraki being one of them, or 3 different devices, Meraki being one of them. And I think we did the pilot for about 6 months before we made the decision. It was long enough that we could really tell the difference in the product. In doing that, we were really looking at performance, ease of use for our, like I said, a very small network team, and Meraki definitely came out on top. And another thing that we were looking at was the amount, like distance and density for the coverage areas that we had to deal with, because we have schools that range anywhere from brand new to, I think, built probably in the 1950s. So seriously some challenges in those older buildings, just penetrating walls.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, one thing I know that we kind of circled up on beforehand in terms of some of the specifics that you guys have enjoyed and the experiences you've had with Meraki, and feel free to jump in at any point, but I know with, the MR wireless access points deployed in the MS switches, a big piece for it has been the base configuration, right? Really being able to scale it out if you're making any adjustments, if you need to add coverage in any school, it's very easy to clone or apply a template and then send it on into the new gear, and it's really a turnkey deployment, or if it's a new school. So I know that's been a big piece, the ability to set up different SSIDs, so being able to have school-owned devices versus student and teacher BYOD devices, and then obviously the guest options, being able to throttle certain applications. So again, if somebody comes on campus, sure, they can access YouTube. I'm okay with that. But I don't want that bogging down my network. I don't want students just sitting on YouTube with their own devices and really bringing things down. So we're able to throttle that bandwidth and say, hey, only a certain amount of traffic can be passed through YouTube. That way it's not taking up, network critical applications.
That's correct. And we actually do that. And to the dislike of many people who come in to use the guest network, but we definitely do that and manage that by site.
And then the other piece is on the switching side, really some of that visibility. So, enhanced visibility into client network traffic, what your network is being used for, what people are doing, what applications are running. But then also being able to see at more of a granular level how different pieces of the network are functioning, how ports are functioning, what kind of power is being pushed where to, security cameras and phones around these different campuses. And then obviously some of those live troubleshooting tools like the cable testing, I know you'd mentioned having a smaller team and with covering that much physical ground as well as, all of those different campuses, the number of campuses, just really being able to consolidate it right onto the dashboard. All right, awesome. So what I'm going to do is move along here. And one of the things, I'm going to turn this question back to you, Michele. In terms of just high level, what would you say are some of the results that you've been able to achieve with Meraki, some of the successes and kind of where you want to take the network going forward?
Well, first of all, let me just say we kind of, knowing what our funding looks like year to year, or I guess I should say for any school people that are on the phone, K-12 groups that are on the phone, they understand this, that you don't know what your funding is going to be year to year. So luckily we're at a size, I guess sometimes you take your disadvantages in your district to your advantage, but luckily because of our size and our the percentage we receive in E-rate, we were able to do this project, and we did it as robust as we possibly could. So we went voice quality wireless in all of our actual school buildings. Now, I do want to caution everybody, we were not able to do our administrative sites through that, so those have largely been old access points that we've taken out of schools, or we have been able to just purchase some along the way to add Wi-Fi to our administrative buildings. But so knowing that, and I don't want anybody to think that we haven't had some pitfalls in this too. I mean, I know we've all been talking about the positive, but the positives for us are we didn't know how it was going to go. We knew that students would love having wireless in the district, but not all of our teaching staff would be as exposed to it, I guess, in the past, so we were worried that they wouldn't be using it. So what we did once we installed the wireless is we budgeted for and purchased a Chromebook cart for every single school, one. So some of our schools may have 300 students, but some have, 700. And while that is not enough at all, it was just, they were really purchased just so they could see what wireless would feel like and what the capabilities were. And along about that time also, the district and the state started online student testing. So once they realized the power of what they had with just the Chromebooks, we went from in the first year or somewhere a little above 3,000 Chromebooks in the district to now we're at 22,000 in 2 years. So it's highly used, and technology is being used every day, all day in the school buildings, which is exactly where we wanted to see it go because obviously things are going technology. But on top of that, then it took off with the teachers too, and sometimes change comes very rapidly for some and not for others. But we have a large number of teachers who are using Google Classroom with their students now, which they weren't at all in the past. So lots of collaboration, all the good things that you could say about it. And we do 100% online. All of our state testing is online now, so all students are at some point during that 3-week window several times a year testing using our wireless. And as far as bottlenecks and those kind of things, sure, we have them, but so rarely. I think part of, if I could caution anybody on going to something, we did this also in about a 10-month period. So this was a rapid-fire project because we needed to be within the E-rate window. So we installed about 3,500 wireless access points in our 109 buildings in a very, very short period of time. So just a few areas, you obviously can't check them all, but just the way they're facing, we had one of our installers was putting them vertically as opposed to horizontally, so we weren't getting the whole amount of coverage. But we've had a great experience with, anything we've needed to troubleshoot, Meraki's been right there for us. So all in all, I would say it's been beyond what we even imagined it would be.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Michelle, and thank you for the kind words. One point I do want to highlight, actually back to one of the first things you said, Michelle, was that this is or was, majority funded through E-rate. I'm on the marketing team here now, and this is more what I'm doing day to day is working with customers and telling our story. But I actually came from the sales side, and I covered K-12 accounts in Arizona and New Mexico, and the majority of the customers that I worked with down in the Southwest, we were funding these projects through E-rate. So that's very relevant. It's something that our team works very closely with. So I'm glad that actually that came up today, because that is something that's very relevant and definitely something that's worth looking into and something that we and our team are happy to work with. So if anybody has questions on that, do feel free to shoot them over to Tanya or reach out to your rep. But yeah, that's awesome. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to spend just a little bit of time. So let me just pull up the dashboard. And we won't spend too much time in here today, but I did just want to show you a little bit about what a live network would look like for anybody that hasn't seen it. So the big thing here to note is I'm sitting in our HQ in San Francisco. I'm up on the 4th floor in our demo room. But if you take a look at this dashboard, this is the live Meraki organization. So, this is our network. This is live. You can see our office here in San Francisco, the office in London, and our office in Sydney. But if I expand this out, we actually have 54 networks connected to the Meraki organization. So those 3 main offices, and then obviously you've got a bunch of teleworkers. You've got some smaller WeWork space. Tanya's actually in our new Chicago office. That's currently a WeWork space. So that's a smaller team that we're growing out. But the point is, just like your campuses, if you do have a diversified campus, you'll have a single organization, and you can easily navigate between the different networks. So I could come in here and I could click into any one of these networks and explore it. So our London office, our Sydney office, there's the most going on in San Francisco, so I'm going to go ahead and stay here in the San Francisco network. But it's that easy to move back and forth between different networks in your organization. And you can quickly see, we're just looking at the overview, but we can see, hey, something's wrong in San Francisco, and I could dive into this network and see what's going on. Now, that's our HQ, as I mentioned, so there's a lot of breaking things, testing things, really just playing around with it. So that's constantly red. For most client networks, if you see red, that would be an issue. For us, that's pretty standard. But just to kind of give you an idea of some of the visibility and the granularity you have, I'm going to move over here to the network-wide overview. And on the left side, you can see all of the different products that we have deployed here in our HQ. Security is its own network, so you won't see the security. But as you grow out your network, and with Columbus City school districts, schools, running wireless and switching, those are the 2 things they see. If they ever were to add additional products, it would pop up over here. But what I can do is I can easily navigate in, and we can quickly see what's going on our network. So right now we're looking at all the clients in the last day, and it's showing me that we've had almost 2,600 clients connected. And so if we look, you'll see there were peaks throughout the day. There was a little dip at lunch yesterday, a peak back in the afternoon. As we approached 5 and 6 o'clock, we start to see a trail off, and then it's pretty much just general running of hardware throughout the night and our support team, so it's pretty quiet. And then about 5:36, when our East Coast sales team gets here, starting to pick back up. So, you can see what the traffic looks like. We have layer 7 visibility, so I can see what applications are being run. And this is where we were saying, I can quickly see, hey, these are our top applications. YouTube, even as a business, and knowing that our company has this visibility, YouTube's in our top 10. Netflix is in our top 10. This is typically for work we do. Netflix, not as much. YouTube it is, though. I know I listen to music in the background, so typically you'll see Spotify or Pandora up here as well. But if I see an issue with this, I can easily dive into one of these applications and I can throttle the bandwidth on that specific application. So I could say, hey, social media as a whole, or I could say, hey, YouTube is on here pretty high. I want to throttle that specific application. The other thing you can do, though, is see the specific client devices. So this is a living, breathing list that I'm looking at. I can see the description on the device, so any type of Active Directory listing. So if you have actual names to the devices, I can see that. I can see operating system, IP address, but I can really mix and match this list to what works for me. So if I come in here and I say, hey, I actually want to look at the MAC address because I have that listed, I can slide it over here so it's in my frame, and then I can actually search for something. So if I go search for myself, I can actually see my MacBook Pro was last seen right now. It's 9:30 here on the West Coast. I can see what my usage looks like, my operating system, etc. And if I actually dive into the device, I'm going to get a lot of granular information. So I can actually see my device here. What it's doing is it's triangulating between different APs, so it can give me an idea of where I am in the building. It'll tell me specifically what switch I'm connected to, so I can actually navigate through that way. And then my traffic, so you can see what's going on. I left at 4:30 yesterday, so you see it's starting to tail off, and then I was back in. I was actually in at 7:30, but didn't open up my computer for a little bit. I was getting coffee and in a meeting. And then I can see my application. So I've moved from a global view looking at 54 different networks in our Meraki organization into a specific device on my network just in a matter of a few clicks. I can quickly see what's going on. a couple of features that I like to highlight specifically for K-12, and I know that Michelle and I had talked about a little bit. One is this switch feature, and that's the topology. And so if I click into topology, what this is going to show me is really the path of all of my traffic. So if I'm experiencing any issues, I can quickly see, hey, this is the path it's taking. These are the switches it's going through, the security appliance, and ultimately what's taking it out to the internet. So as soon as this loads, we'll see what that topology view looks like. And one of the things you'll see as you are moving throughout the dashboard is I can navigate over here to the left side and I can select from the menu, hey, I want to go look at a specific switch or I want to look at a specific access point, and I can dive into that. But I also can navigate through. If I click on a device, you can click on the switch or access point that it's connected to. You can go look at the topology view like we're doing here, and it's going to show me what the traffic route looks like. So I can see, hey, here's the switch that I'm connected to. I can see how many other clients are connected to this, and then I can see the path. So I can go say, hey, traffic's being passed through this switch. I actually want to navigate into this. But if we pick one, instead of actually going to the switch column on the left side, I can just quickly see this. I can click into the switch directly from topology, and now I can see what's going on. I can see what ports are active, what ports are actually firing PoE, and I could come in and configure these ports. So the idea is that it makes it very simple. Again, I focused on HQ just because there's the most going on, but I could do this in London. I could configure a switch in a closet in London just from a few clicks. I could see what devices are connected. And again, the idea is that it's giving you complete visibility into your network, what's going on, how people are using the network, and adjustments that you may need to make. Another piece that I like to highlight is, if we go into wireless, the SSID portion. And I know we highlighted this with Michelle. We've got a number of SSIDs open. There's 15 available to us. We use a lot of them, again, just because our engineers sit here at HQ, so there's a lot of breaking, fixing, testing new things. So they've got a number of different ones set up for them. But the idea is that with a couple of clicks, I can come in here, I can select one of my SSIDs, and I can make adjustments to it. I'll select from a couple of radio button options, maybe a couple of drop downs, and then depending on what I'm setting up, I might have to do some input. But it's as simple as this, and it's a quick configuration of the network, and I'm off and running. So that's a big piece. The other piece I do want to highlight, or the last piece, is this location heat map, and I think this is just a very interesting piece of analytics that we offer. If we zoom back, you'll see here, this is our building here in San Francisco. All the green represent the access points spread throughout our 4 floors, and then you'll see all the devices, right? So these are all these dots, again, triangulating like it did for my device. And what I can do is I can set this back to, say, yesterday at lunch, and I'm going to go hit, actually, let's start a little bit before lunch, and hit play. And you'll be able to see the flow of traffic. So you can see the movement of different people, where the hot spots are in the building, or in your case, on campus. And the idea is this can help you really assess what's going on with your network. Hey, maybe I have a lot of traffic in the afternoons over here, so I want to focus that or add additional coverage, add additional access points in these certain classrooms because there's a lot of traffic there. Maybe there's too many clients or bordering on too many clients attached to one AP over here, and you have a couple of APs set up on this side of the building, and there's only a handful of people connecting to 2 different APs, so I can move one of these over. It can also help with security measures. I've had a couple of schools that I've worked with in the past that have used this to help security guards route where they're walking, where they're spending time, just seeing the flow of student and staff traffic. So a lot of power here, a lot that you can do. Like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into the weeds on a demo today, but I did want to give you an idea of just the power of what you can see and kind of the flexibility that we offer here within the Meraki dashboard. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation, and we're going to wrap up with just talking a little bit about the product families in particular, and then we're going to open it up for some Q&A, and any questions, feel free again to continue to shoot those into the chat box, and Tanya will continue to answer those for you. But focusing on product families, I've hit on this a couple times, but really what we did was we started as a wireless access point company, and it grew to security appliances and switches, at which point we were acquired by Cisco, and then we've continued to build out the portfolio. So again, these 6 product lines are all managed from that same dashboard. So we looked at wireless, took a little bit of a look at switching, but we could have dove into our phones, could have dove into the security cameras and seen live footage of what's going on right now in our HQ here and done it all from that single dashboard. Now, one thing I do want to highlight is all of this gear comes in a number of different models. So the access points, we have everything from a basic all-in-one access point, maybe for a portable or a smaller classroom that's detached from the rest of the building, all the way up through stadium level outdoor wireless access points. So a broad range in the access points. Same in security appliances if it's just a small branch or a major campus deployment. Switches, Systems Manager gives us even more visibility into and control over those devices within the dashboard. The phone is currently one model, and the security camera comes in an indoor and outdoor model. So lots to look at, lots to think about. And the idea here is, and this is something that Michele was doing with her project, is it doesn't necessarily have to be a complete rollout. You can add access points. It will play nice with any other vendor, let's say for switching or security, and you can grow it and just add it to your dashboard as you go. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a complete rip and replace. It can be a piece together project and scaling it as you go and adding to your single organization dashboard. So next steps, we offer a risk-free evaluation. I know Michele talked about this when she was talking about her experience. What we'll do is if you work with your Meraki rep, they can send out any gear that you want. Again, any of those 6 product families, any combination of those 6 families, and you'll get that gear live and in your hands, and you'll get the ability to work with our trial support team. And what they'll do is they'll actually help you configure a trial network. And the idea is you can get on a quick call with them, configure a network. As soon as the gear arrives, you just plug it in and it'll be up and running, and you can test it in your environment. You can test it with some colleagues, you can test it with some students and see how it works, how you like it, what it does on your campus. And if you need to send it back, we provide the shipping label. You just put it back in the box it came in. So it's risk-free to you guys. That's an option to get your hands on it, really test it out, work with our support team, and just see if it makes sense. You can also check out our website and blog. Again, lots of good information. I mentioned that earlier. All of the product families are highlighted on our website. We've got lots of data sheets if you're interested in getting to the weeds of the specifics and really what the specifications are on each of the individual product lines. And the blog is really just a source for some live stories and what's going on. Talking about the security appliance, there are some features that when you're shopping you want to hit and understand, but we've wrote blogs about like the WannaCry incident and what we did to correct that and send out the automatic firmware update to make sure that our customer networks were protected. So lots of good information there in terms of product releases, real life cases. There's case studies like Michele's that are posted on the website, so lots of good information. And then finally, just working with your Cisco Meraki rep. We're here to help answer questions today. It's going to be a little more simple in terms of questions being answered over chat or via a webinar. So this would give you a chance to have a real in-depth conversation and just see if it makes sense. So do feel free to reach out to your rep. If you don't know who your rep is, we're more than happy to help find that, or you can go to meraki.cisco.com/contact. All right, so that is the end of our demo today, our presentation. I want to open it up to some questions. So I'm going to, give me 1 second, I'm going to see what Tanya has been answering and if there are any that we can add to the list here and answer live. So give me 1 second. All right, so it looks like you've been doing a great job answering these, Tanya. I appreciate it. One question that it looks like for Michele, one of them is, they're just curious to know how you and the team handle some of the wireless authentication for personal devices, smartphones, tablets that students or staff bring in.
We have a couple ways. It depends on which network you want to be on. If you want to have, obviously, a better performance, then the best performance, we put your IP range into the system. Or if you want to use what we prefer you use, I think we call it CCS personal, then you authenticate using your Active Directory information that you use just every day to sign onto your computer. And then the guest network, you can just get on. But it's just not the most desirable.
And that actually brings up a good point. One of the things you can do when you're setting up a wireless network is you can configure different things in terms of how it authenticates, with Active Directory or something like that. You can also set up splash pages, so maybe I have to have a password to log in, or maybe it's just as simple as filling out my email address so that I can help track who's accessing my network. But setting up those splash pages and authentications is very simple within the dashboard. Another question for you, Michelle, is just asking if you guys have ever had to, just kind of a personal anecdote, had to blacklist kids to keep them on task or create whitelists for them to use, in terms of really monitoring and filtering what kind of traffic they're accessing.
We actually filter through our internet filter. If they're on our network anywhere, whether wireless or on our hardwired network, then we're filtering all the time. So as far as blacklisting, we do that occasionally if there's a site that is making it through the filter for some reason, like a gaming site that's called something else and we find out about them. But honestly, I know this is going to sound a little odd. I think adult behavior is probably worse than child behavior for the most part. We did have a high school when we first. They had a lot of Chromebooks, and the principal was to the point where he just wanted to shut it down. But a lot of it's just classroom management. Took a little while for people to get used to students being able to jump on at any time, but we don't have a staff large enough to sit and watch what kids are doing. We from time to time we get requests to try to locate a device, if a threat, and I will use the term loosely because we have not had terrible violence issues in any way, shape, or form. But, making a prank call, actually, we were able to narrow it down to where a prank call was coming from in a building. Again, nothing terribly dangerous, but just more of a nuisance. We do obviously have the ability to go back and monitor what people are doing, but if you're not authenticated, it's by IP address, and it's pretty tricky to narrow down who's doing it. But yeah, we really don't have. I don't think we have. We've had it up and running for well over a year. This is our second full year of having wireless, and like I said, we have 22,000 devices that they can use without using their own personal device. So we just don't have. It's really not an issue here. And we're an urban district. We're not. We have our share of issues in neighborhoods and everywhere else you go in the city, but we don't have that issue here in our schools. Let me knock on wood because we don't want to start, but it just hasn't been a huge issue, and we didn't go into it thinking it would be, but you're going to have a few no matter what device they're using.
So I'm going to ask you another couple just because it seems like everybody wants to hear from you. They're overhearing from me, Michelle. But one of the questions is, do you mind just describing the process a little bit in terms of what you went through to determine the location of the APs, and then as a part of that question, do you guys have an AP per classroom, and do you know off the top of your head what model you're using? So kind of what your deployment looks like.
Sure. So we went out, actually, our RFP was pretty extensive, and we required like a radio frequency survey of every single building we have. We did allow the vending community that was going to do the project visit our schools if they wanted to. I think the first time we put it out to RFP, we actually drove people around to our buildings because, like I said, we have some that were built in 1950 and some that were built 2 years ago. So it's just, and honestly, penetrating through some of those walls it was quite a task. So we actually had heat map of every single solitary school done prior to the installation. In some locations, I would say we're close to access point per room, and that's really when we, as a district, our committee or our group here in IT, when we were thinking about it, that's really how we kind of planned it out, was there would be an access point in every single room. And the solution that we went with, they didn't put them in every single room. Now, we have had to go back and put some into some real high usage. Obviously, we were installing these in mind that there would be at least 30 devices on every wireless access point. So sometimes the coverage is just a little weak in the areas, but it was few and far between. I mean, for 3,500 access points, I think we've only had 2 schools that have been a little bit problematic that we've had to add access points to. So following the installation, then we did the same coverage. They went back and verified the coverage as well. So, you know, in some of our auditoriums and gyms, and we call them cafetoriums now in the new schools where it's the cafeteria, auditorium, and gym all in one thing, we probably have more, obviously we'd have to have more access points in there, but it didn't come out to being an access point per room, I don't think, in any of our buildings. Did I answer all your questions? It seemed like that was like a 5-part question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to dump them on you.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I lost track, though.
No, that was perfect. I'll take the pressure off for a minute and answer a couple of questions. One that came up was just asking if Meraki access points provide a mesh-type wireless network where users are able to roam freely throughout the building without interruption in connectivity, and the answer is yes.
And I can second that. That was exactly what that was something that we said in the RFP. They had to be able to be anywhere in the building and not lose connection as they roam.
And that's definitely exactly like Michelle said, something that we can do. The other cool thing is, you know, here at our headquarters, it's a single building. But when you're on a campus, if you have outdoor access points set up, you can continue that roam. So when I covered education in the Southwest, whenever I would go out on campus visits and I was at like a university where they had quads and big space, if they ever had wireless, I would always try and ask if I could connect or at least connect to the guest network. And you could just seamlessly flow from building to building through the quad and continue that wireless connectivity. So, you know, even if you just have passing ground that's outdoors, moving between buildings, if you have outdoor access points, that connectivity can continue to roam. So, great question. Another one that I've seen a couple times is actually around security. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring my screen back up and just show you guys. So this is our Chicago office. This, again, is where Tanya is at. And as I mentioned, we break out our security appliances into a separate network. So I am looking right now just at the Chicago security network. Here's the appliance. And there's a couple of things you can do with security that I think are great for K-12 deployments. And one of those is the traffic shaping. As I mentioned, you've got that capability. To show you how easy it is to set up, though, if I come in here, I could say add, and I can pick something like gaming websites, or just because we all know it, if I go to social, I could say, hey, all social web and photo sharing sites, or maybe, you know, Facebook is the big issue that we're seeing right now. I can add Facebook. I could come in here and add Instagram. And then what I can do is I can set the amount of bandwidth or the limit for the amount of bandwidth that can be passed from any device. So now, hey, I'm okay with students accessing Facebook, but they're only going to get this much bandwidth. It's not going to bog down the network. So it might run slow for them, but they do have the ability to access it. So you can quickly come in and set up rules like these traffic shaping rules, And one thing to note is I'm in the security appliance, but you can also do this from a wireless level. So even if you just have wireless access points, you still have this functionality. One of the things that's unique to the security appliance, though, is the actual ability to content filter. So we actually have the ability, if you want, to run content filtering right through the Meraki MX security appliance. So you just come in here, you can whitelist or blacklist certain sites, or you can do content filtering. So again, similar idea, I can come in here, I can pick specific content, or I can say, hey, let's blacklist these URLs and whitelist these URLs. Come in, make a save, and you're good to go. So the idea is, again, that it's simple, and the idea is that it's quick to learn, and it frees people up for other projects that they want to work on, and really providing the best possible network instead of just chasing down, the fact that maybe an access point was unplugged or something like that, and it's not spending your time troubleshooting the network. All right, let me see. Looks like a question just popped up about the applications for filtering and blocking customizable. The overarching content, like I selected abortion, that piece, those are all preset content or topics that you can select from. It's not customizable. Which topics you select is customizable. So I went in and picked one of them. I could pick and choose as many as I wanted, though. The other thing to note is that we are constantly updating this. So the list is, depending on the topic, anywhere from a handful of sites to a couple of thousand sites. And that is constantly being updated. So because it's a web program, again, you don't have to download anything. The web-based ability allows us to make updates to the list, grow the list as new sites come online, and add them to those topics. And so they'll continue to be blocked. So, if you block social media and something comes out tomorrow that's instead of MySpace, your space, and you haven't had the chance to block it, but it's recognizing it as a social media site, it'll automatically block that content or block that site. So we're constantly updating those lists, making sure that, if you have those protections in place, they are in place and good to go. I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a couple minutes back, but before we sign off, I just want to say thank you very much, Michelle, and I just wanted to give you the chance, is there anything else you'd want to share, maybe that I didn't ask about or that we didn't go over in the presentation?
No, I think we covered everything.
All right, we covered a lot. We covered a lot of ground, and I, like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time to share the story and just help people understand kind of what Meraki is about, and maybe it's a good fit for them. So again, if there are any questions that didn't get answered or maybe were specific to your deployment or your experience, feel free to reach out to your Meraki rep. They're more than happy to help. And again, if you're interested in taking more of a deep dive, we do have that risk-free evaluation, so we can send you gear risk-free to try out on your campus. Or if you just want to see a little bit more, your Meraki rep can also work with one of our engineers and give a customized demo and actually spend some time in the dashboard showing you around more so than the high-level look we took today. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you very much, Michelle, for coming on and helping us out. And I hope everybody has a great Thursday.
Thank you.